2017 is finally here, and the Investor Empowerment Series show is back again. Episode number 29, the dissection of an owner-financed deal. Today's guest, Mitch Stephen. I am proud to have him on the show. We spent about an hour and a half together today recording this episode. We get into the ins and outs, dynamics, anatomy, the dissection, whatever, of the owner finance transaction, how to evaluate an owner finance transaction, which is incredible. Literally like, what do I tell you guys, my door jam valuation? This is like the street side door jam valuation without even getting out of the car. You come up with your numbers based off of what rental amounts these properties are renting for. Incredible show. Mitch offers a ton of information. He's been in business as an investor for over 20 years. He's written books, literally wrote the book on owner financing, which is pretty awesome. He's going to talk to us about how to get those books if you're interested. I personally read one of them as well, and that's how we got in touch with each other about a year ago, because I actually reached out to the guy to ask him some questions about some of the stuff I read in his book, and guess what? He frickin' called me back, which I thought was crazy. But yeah, so that started a little bit of dialogue between us, and here we are today. He is proud to have him on as my guest. Episode number 29 of the Investor Empowerment Series radio show. So I just want to take a quick minute to identify one of the new partnerships that we've recently developed in the last month or so, and that's with a company called Lending Home. Lending Home offers 12-month fix and flip type loans with rates as low as 7.5%. I personally went through their lending process in order to vet them out before I would offer it to you guys, and I was thoroughly impressed. That said, I also negotiated special discounts for anybody that comes to them through my network. So if you're interested or you're in need of any funding for your next fix and flip project, and you'd like to see if we can get you rates as low as 7.5%, please contact us at www.tanisfunding.com. That's www.tanisfunding.com.
Welcome to the Investor Empowerment Series radio show, empowering your real estate investing with techniques, opportunities, and information, minus the BS and sales pitches. Now, please welcome the host of the Investor Empowerment Series, Joe Mueller, from the Tough as Nails Investment Syndicate. Joe Mueller.
Hey, Mitch, thanks for coming on the show today. Can you tell everyone a little bit more about yourself?
Hey, Joe, thanks for having me. Where to start? You want to start with the good parts of me or the bad parts of me?
Whatever parts you want to start with are fine.
Hey, I'm a guy who fell in love with real estate about 20 years ago. I failed at everything else practically. There wasn't anything left. It was the only thing. If I didn't make it in real estate, I was just going to have to go out and shoot myself because I didn't do very well at anything else. Didn't go to college. I like to say I went to graduated from La Calle U. That's the street in Spanish. And some people get it and some people don't. But I think I'm going to have a ring made up one time, like with a college ring that says Calle.
That's awesome.
I paid the street a lot of money, and through finally getting smarter and smarter and morphing and adjusting, I became full-time, and I've been a full-time real estate investor for about over 20 years.
Okay.
And I do about 100 houses a year, more or less.
I want to hear more about the 100 houses. I mean, what to what capacity are you purchasing, renting, flipping? What's 100 houses mean to you?
I'm out there looking for houses that I can buy with other people's money and then owner finance on a wraparound mortgage and keep the spread but not be a landlord. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to buy houses with borrowed money and owner finance them to my buyers, provided they have a down payment and they can afford the payment, and I like them.
Okay.
That's the big one. I have to like them. But on the way to those 100 houses, I find a lot of other different deals that I don't really specialize in, apartment deals, subject twos, I don't know, all kinds of deals. And I've learned to take advantage of them. If I don't do them myself, I'll just wholesale them to people that I know that do. So out of the 100 houses, 40% will get wholesaled. 10% will get retailed because the house just screams to me, retail me, there's nothing to do to me, just give me to a realtor and sell me.
Right.
And then the other 50% I owner finance. And I end up owner financing about 50 houses a year.
Wow. Okay. I'm just taking down some notes here. So it's interesting that you have a specific number in mind, it seems like. When you start off on January 1st, you know that you need to end up with 100 houses or 100 transactions, we'll call it, throughout that year, correct?
We're always monitoring our systems to see if we need to up our mailings to hit the 100, or if we're on pace for the 100, or if we're ahead of schedule. It's not really the number, though. Whether I hit 100 or not is insignificant. It's just a bar that we can measure by, that we think, well, this is a good place to be right here at 100. But like this year, 2016, the markets were so hot, and everyone was out there, and there's a guru down at the convention center every other weekend, it seems like, and everybody's out there trying to flip houses. And so I could only buy 77 quality great deals. So 77 is the number in 2016, and that's a great living. Sure. I mean, you can make a great living in this business in 20 houses.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I think 20 houses is probably what a lot of our listeners are probably striving to get to at some point, and the fact that you're at the 70s and 100s level is awesome.
Yeah, the most I ever did in 1 year is 150, but I wasn't prepared for that volume. It was just a great time where you could just walk out in the streets and deals would just fly into your face. And I did too many, because I would have been better off just to do 75 or 100 deals and be able to manage them correctly, because the money was going out the back door as fast as it was coming in the front door in some houses, and I wasn't able to watch it all. But that being said, and I don't want especially new people to even start to think about 100 houses or 75 houses, because that's not where I started either, but then I started to get systems, and I got mentors that taught me systems, how my business can run without me, and how this department could run without me, and how the other department could run without me. And now that's why I can do that volume, is because no one person is carrying the weight of all those houses by themselves. That 7,700 houses a year is busted up over like 5 or 6 people, and everyone just has to carry their little bit of that weight, and it makes it possible.
Sure.
Plus, people can specialize in what they do good every day, and so the whole process becomes more efficient, because the people that are sitting in that department chair really like doing that and really know how to do it good. And so then it moves to the next department, same thing. That guy really likes what he's doing, and he really does that part good. Where when I was by myself, I was trying to do it all. I hated half of the parts, and I dang sure wasn't any good at least half of the parts.
Right. Sure. We've already covered a lot. I mean, we kind of just jumped right in. I know I took you off guard by starting the podcast, which is fine, but let's break this down a little bit more. I mean, how are you, and I know we're going to talk about systems now that you've brought that up. I want to hear more about that, but how are you finding these deals, and where are you located out of? Let's hear a little bit more about the background of Mitch Stephen.
I buy almost all my houses in and about San Antonio, Texas. I don't go to any of the RIAs per se. I try to stay real low key in my hometown. I'm not even a front man anymore. I have 5 acquisition people and that I got in their own lanes, so they're not competing with each other. I go out there and I buy Walmart houses for Walmart people, and that's what I'm looking for. The middle to the lower middle to the upper middle, but right in the middle. Right. And because I feel like those houses, the day that those houses aren't worth anything will be the day that it doesn't matter where your money is, and we'll be picking up guns and going somewhere, I guess. But until then, everyone's going to need my little 1,200 square foot house. They're they're being demand from now till the day the world ends.
Right. So you're looking for bread and butter, like three bedroom, 1 bath, 1 car garage type stuff.
Yeah, and it doesn't, everything for a price. People say, well, I don't buy 2-1s, and I'm going, well, for what price don't you buy them? I mean, if I had a 2-1 for $1.50, would you buy it? And they say, well, of course I'd buy it for $1. I said, now that we've established you do buy 2-1s, can we work on a reasonable price?
Right, exactly.
I mean, I'll buy anything in any neighborhood for a price. Now, whether I choose to hold it or wholesale it or retail it just depends on what the house says to me. But if there's money in the property, I'll buy it. I'll buy things I don't even specialize in. I mean, I looked at an apartment complex and they wanted so little for it one time. I just said, I'll buy it. And my people said, you're not in this business. Why are you buying it? And I said, well, I'm just going to take it down. I'm going to sell it to somebody. But I'm not really a contract flipper. I got really good at raising private money. I take my houses down, take my time, find the right buyer, get my best price I can get, for it, slow down. When you flipping contracts, you have a gun to your head. You have a deadline, usually. Okay. And that can make you sell for, to someone that can fund it. That's not going to back up. It's hard to take chances on strangers when you're flipping a contract. And you just want to go back to the same tried and true guys, but they may not be offering you the most money, and you can't afford to take a chance on someone new because you got this deadline and it has to be closed by then or else. So right. I take everything down so I can slow down and calm down and then find, it might take me an extra couple of weeks, but I find the right buyer for my property and I get a good price.
Right, so you might end up wholesaling that opportunity, like you said, that 40% of the properties you acquire, or if it's a great property, then you've got that opportunity to just sell it retail because you've got time on your side if you're going to list it, and you own the property at that point, so it doesn't really matter, and you can maximize the profitability.
Yeah, that's right. I'll even buy things in war zones. I'll buy things that are on the borderline to be tore down or to be rebuilt, or they're right on the fence, like you could go either way on this one. And I just slow down and I advertise, and I always find someone. I mean, there's not been a house I didn't ever sell. I've lost on about 4 houses in my 1,500 house career, probably to a grand total of about $50,000 total over the 4 houses. But, it was like, okay, I'm closing on 18 houses this month. One of them's losing $10,000. Okay, big deal. It's still a great month.
Right, sure.
But so how I got to where I'm at now, though, is I started out wanting to be a buy and hold, landlord, buy the house and rent it out. And I got up to about 25 houses. And that money that they told me was supposed to hit the bottom line was not hitting the bottom line. Everyone says, well, you buy this house and you have a $500 payment and you're collecting $900 a month in rent. So you got a $4,800 a year positive cash flow. And like today, if you try to tell me that, I'll jump right in your face and go, really? Really? Are you going to go out there and tell people that? I mean, you didn't give 1 ounce of weight to all the liabilities on the left-hand side of the page that you're responsible for as a landlord. You didn't give 1 penny of expense to that, like air conditioner, roof, hot water heater, garage door, front door, back door, faucet, sink, shower head. You just name it. Carpet, sheetrock. I mean, the list is a mile long, and these gurus are out there telling you that this is the way to go. And if you buy, 10 of these houses, you'll have $4,000 a month coming in. That's just bullshit. It's just plain bullshit.
Okay, tell me more.
Well, so I wanted to get out of it, and again, I thought I was going to fail at the last thing left on the planet for me to try, and so I went to go try to get out of my 25 houses and not lose my credit and my reputation and my word.
You had 25 houses making somewhere around, $400 or $500 a month each?
Well, this was 20 years ago. They were supposed to make like $300 a piece, so I'm supposed to have $7,500 a month hit my bottom line. That's what they're teaching me.
Right. Okay. And that's not really
well. In a year, I lost about $1,000. Now, I could have been the crappiest landlord on the planet too. That might not have helped 20 years ago, but still, I even bargained that I wasn't going to collect the whole $7,500. I knew better. I'm thinking if I could just get $3,500 out of this, I'll be good, because that's all I needed to live at the time. And so I couldn't even make $3,500 out of it. And so I took the last $10,000 I had, and I hired a guy who said he could solve my problem. And I knew this guy for a while. He was a really low-key guy, owned 500 houses free and clear. Wow. I said, how much you want? And he says, give me $10,000. You'll make it back so fast it'll make your head swim. Well, $10,000, it was the last $10,000 I had. So $10,000's anyway a lot of money, especially in 2000 and 2000 and what? 2001? No, 1996 or 1995. So I took the last $10,000 I had and I handed it to him, which was completely foreign to me. The thought of paying someone for their knowledge wasn't really on my radar at that time, and it was starting to come of age, but it really wasn't like it is today,
Right.
And the guy solved my problem in a day and a half. He showed me what I was doing wrong, and he told me to go back down into those neighborhoods. And you see, I tried to sell those for new loans, and no one could qualify for a new loan down there because of where I was. I was probably in the lower middle, if that makes any sense. Okay. I wasn't in the war zone on the bottom, but I wasn't far off the bottom. Okay. And or the houses couldn't qualify, and so I thought I was stuck with him. He told me to go down there and just ask those people for $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 down, and then make their principal, interest, taxes, and insurance payment about what you're collecting now in rent, maybe a little more, and you'll start clearing that $7,500 because you won't be the landlord anymore. You'll be the bank. You know, when you get a $900 rent payment for a house, and you make your payment of $500 and you got $400 in your hand, you don't even know if it's your $400, because if the air conditioner breaks, apparently it was the air conditioner man's $400. And so what was happening was I was doing a hell of a job collecting money for the air conditioner man and the plumber and the electrician and the carpet cleaner and the carpet replacement guy and the tile on the floor and the refrigerator maintenance guy, everybody. I wasn't getting to keep any of the money. So all that changed. When I became the financier of the house, I started collecting $7,500 a month, and the people were fixing my houses up and staying instead of tearing my houses down and leaving. The mindset in my house is completely different now.
Right.
The guy that's sending me the mortgage payment is way different guy than the guy who was sending me the rent payment. So look what happened. I had 75 houses. I didn't even believe in this with my whole heart yet. I was still tentative, didn't think it would work. Of course, I had a suspicion it would work because this guy had 500 of them. So, trying not to be too stupid, I took it on faith. I collected, and I could have collected more if I knew what I knew today, but I just didn't. I wasn't fully on board mentally. I collected $3,000 a house times 25 houses. You got a calculator there? Probably don't even need one. That's $75,000.
Nice.
Okay, so, and then the $7,500 a month that I thought I was going to make as a landlord but wasn't making, that started hitting my bank account. And I went from disgruntled, don't want her, petrified, depressed landlord to holy cow, I've got $75,000 in the bank. It's not a refundable deposit. It's a down payment. That's my money. From the time it hit the account, it was my money. And I was clearing the $7,500 per month, and all of a sudden, all the light bulbs went off, and I said, I wonder how fast I can do this. I bought these houses. I tried to rent them for a year or two. They kicked my butt. Then I figured out to owner finance them. I wonder how fast you can just go straight to the owner financing model and skip that 2-year step. And, another thing happened, Joe. Once I got everyone on those notes, those 25 people, the note buyers called me. And they said, we understand you have a note on this house. And I said, yeah. They said, we'd like to buy it from you for cash. And they ended up offering me about $15,000 profit per house after I'd collected the down payment. So it was like $18,000 that I was getting from each house when I sold the notes. And so they did one, and it worked. And I collected about $17,000.
Okay.
Average per house. So I'm doing some math here.
Sure. So am I.
So I did $17,000 a house. I mean, I did one, and it worked, and I got my check, and I said, what could you do with another 24 of these? And I sold the whole 24 in the next bundle, did about the same per house. I walked out of that place with $425,000 plus the $75,000 I had in down payments from a few months ago. Wow. And all of a sudden, I went from nothing to $500,000 in the bank, and I'd never seen $75,000 in one place before, much less $500,000, and much less in my bank account. Right. I hadn't even seen $500,000 in someone else's bank account. I had never seen $500,000. I didn't even know.
Right.
And so that's what started my 20-year venture of this is great and this is what I like. And no one was teaching it, and still to this day hardly anyone teaches it right.
So you started off as a landlord. You turned into, we'll call it, you turned into a bank to some degree.
I turned into an owner financier.
An owner financier. Can we dive into the real anatomy of how an owner finance transaction works, from the acquisition on your side to, obviously I heard you use the term, you get a lot of private funding, all the way through the end result of a buyer.
I'll give you a case study.
Yeah, let's do that. That'd be awesome.
Okay, first of all, the core belief of the owner finance business is that the person paying $1,000 a month rent would rather pay $1,000 to own. Do you believe that?
Absolutely. I hope so.
You know, it's not 100% across the board. Of course, there's some people that don't want a house right now, don't want to be the owner of a house for certain reasons. Some of them don't deserve to have houses right now for certain reasons. But it's about 83, 85%, I'm guessing. So if your market's 83% of the renters out there in your town, that's a heck of a big number. So, but the core belief, and you're going to come back to it time after time after time in all different instances, you're going to have to look at people and go, I thought you told me you were on board with the core belief, because you're either on board or you're not. Because you have to be on board with that belief from the tips of your toes to the tip of your head, or else this doesn't make any sense. Now, sure. I can tell you that the core belief is correct because I've been doing it for 1,500 deals and for 20 plus years, but you have to come to that conclusion. We're going to arrive at an owner finance value. I think I've coined the OFV. I know there was people have ARVs and the Mayo, the maximum allowable offer, but I think, and I don't get to coin much, so help me here, the owner finance value, the OFV. If you've heard that before, let me know. But
no,
so how you arrive at the OFV is we're going to use the rents to determine the value of the house. So this is the formula. Get your pen out. It's the rent.
Okay.
Minus the insurance, monthly insurance cost, minus the monthly property taxes. That's what the person has left over for principal and interest. If he's going to buy a house in this neighborhood that I'm looking at where he's renting, and he's going to have the same payment as he had when he's rented, this is the money he has over for principal and interest. So let's say it's $950 is the rent, and it's $50 for the insurance, so minus $50, and it's $100 for the property taxes, so minus another $100. So that leaves us $800, right? Mm-hmm. For principal and interest. Now, multiply that by 115, and you'll get approximately the loan balance, and it's going to be around $80,000. See how 800 equaled 80,000?
Yeah, I'm multiplying right now. So 800 times 115.
Yeah, but and that 115 will give you a loan balance they can afford.
Okay. At
30 years at 10%.
So the number comes to 92,000, 30 years at 10%. So that's how you write up your note.
Yep.
Okay.
But if that's how much they can afford to finance, let's just use 92,000. Okay, I like round numbers. They don't need to split hairs in this strategy. So if you can finance 92,000, then what is the owner finance price or the value? So just add 12% on top of 92,000. So 92,000 times 12%.
It's $11,040 plus.
Call it 11,000. So you add 11,000 to 92, and you get 103,000.
Right. 103,000.
So that's your owner finance value. And this is really important, guys. I don't care what the MAI appraiser says the value is. I don't care. I don't care what the comp said in the CMA. I don't care. I don't care what the broker's professional opinion says. I don't care. Their price may be 15, 20% lower than mine, their assessment of the value. But I don't care because this is an owner finance value. It has a value. It's a value unto itself. And these people that they're trying to tell you the value of the house is only 80 is because they're these buyers that they're comparing your buyer to had to go out and get a new loan and had to qualify for a new loan or had cash. The guys I'm talking to, they're not getting a new loan. They're not getting a new loan, and they certainly don't have the cash. Okay? So the guys I'm talking to are relegated to being renters the rest of their life, or they're going to put up $12,000 in this case, and someone's going to give them a chance to own a home. Now, the realtors will say, well, you're ripping these people off because how are they ever going to sell this house? You're selling them over the market and all this. I say, you know what? I think it's the landlords that's ripping them off. They're charging them, $950 a month, and what do they get? What do they get in 20 years, 30 years? What does the renter get? He gets nothing.
Right.
What will the rent be in 10 years? You think it's still going to be $950? What do you think a $950 rent would be in 10 years, Joe? Really? Just take a guess. $1,400?
Yeah, I was going to say $1,500 a month, right?
Yeah. What about 20 years from now? What will it be?
Yeah, even more.
$2,000?
Right.
In 25 and 30 years, what do you think the rent will be in 30 years from now? You think it'll be $3,500 a month, maybe?
It'll be a lot higher.
Yeah, well, in this plan, my owner finance plan that we're fixing to go through,
right?
It's going to be zero in 30 years. And it could be zero in like 17 years if you'd make one extra principal payment a year.
Sure.
Which I explained to them. So here you go. You got this house. And so we figure out the owner finance value up front. And this is what's really cool about the owner finance formula is you can pull up in front of a house on your phone and figure out what you could owner finance this house for in about, less than 7 minutes using Zillow and Trulia and rentalmeter.com and finding out what the rents are, calling the apartments across the street and saying, hey, what's a 3.2 going for? Because if it's going for $950 at the apartments, a house that's a 3.2 is worth more than that, right? Because it has a yard, a front yard and a backyard and maybe
Absolutely.
a garage.
Absolutely.
So it's not hard to figure this out. And you don't have to split hairs exactly. I mean, give or take $10 a month, what is the rents? And then you use this formula and you establish the owner finance value. And that's important because until you know what you can sell something for, you don't know what to offer to buy it if you're in a business to make a profit, right? You have to know what you could sell it for. And this is hands down the sales price for this kind of person in this kind of neighborhood. Mm-hmm. That's going to be the sales price. I'm going to be right there. We've established that the financed amount was $92,000 and that you could owner finance this house potentially at $103,000 with $12,000 down, and that's the price. So I always want to be in half of what's owed me. So after the down payment, these people are going to owe me $92,000. A home run is if I can be all in this house for $46,000. You know what? That's a home run. It doesn't mean if I paid $47,000, $48,000, $49,000, $50,000, $51,000 for this house that it wouldn't be a good deal. It just means I can. Here's the thing, Joe. I can divide by 2 really good, and the finance amount was 92, and half of that's 46. So I know that that's a home run. If I buy it less than 46, then it's a grand slam. Sure. If I buy it less than that, it's a grand slam with bases, in the last inning. If I buy it less than that, it's a grand slam on the last pitch.
Okay.
Of the game. Right. and so, but I know where I'm at. I go in and let's say I negotiate to buy this house for $46,000. And so I always borrow $2,000 extra when I borrow money because people go, well, why do you get to make an extra $2,000? I say, well, finding houses isn't free. Okay. And if you don't collect at least an extra $2,000 every time you go out and do this, you'll be broke and you won't know why. But those mailings and those tires and that gasoline and all that, it costs money, Sure. So I'm buying this thing for $46,000. I'm getting it from a private individual. I'm given a first lien on this property that my formula and my 20 years of experience says that he can own or finance for $103,000. That's a pretty good position for a lender to be in, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like 50%, just like you said.
Yeah. And so the payment was just over $800.
Correct.
Coming in. And when I borrow this $48,000, my payment is just over $300. Let's see exactly what it is. $48,000. I borrow money at 8%, interest only, 5 years, non-recourse, collateral only loan.
Amortized over.
No, collateral only, interest only. So at 8% divided by 12, 46,000 times 8% divided by 12, I'm paying $320 a month. Okay, I'm collecting $800 a month in the payment, principal interest, and I'm paying out $320. There's my spread of $580.
Right.
So I'm picking up $2,000 when I bought the house. I'm picking up $12,000 in the down payment. That's $14,000 in my pocket right now. Look at how much money do I have in this house, Joe?
You are actually, you made money at $2,000. You got zero in the house.
I got zero in the house. Now I don't have zero in the house. When I bought the house, I put $2,000 in my left-hand pocket. By the way, it's tax deferred because it's borrowed money, and I don't have to pay I don't have to pay tax on that $2,000 until a major event happens. Like A, I sell a note, or B, they pay me off. Mm-hmm. Okay. But right now that $2,000, and then I made $12,000 in the down payment. That's how many people could live off of $14,000 a month if you did one of these a month, 12 houses a year.
A lot of people would be just fine, I'm sure.
More than enough.
And then every time you do it, you increase your cash flow by $400 or $500.
Sure.
And you're not a landlord, which means no calls for toilets, no calls for sinks. It's just did they send the payment or not?
Right.
So you have and you can turn over the payment collections. I use a company called moatnoteservicing.com. MOAT, like a moat around a castle.
Yep.
Moatnoteservicing.com. They charge me $35 a payment plus the late fees, and I give them all to them because I don't make money doing collections. I make money buying houses. At this pace, this one house is worth $173,000 plus $14,000 is like 82. What is that?
$186,000.
Yeah, I just made $186,000, and I haven't got to collect it all yet, right?
Sure.
But it's in my future. It's owed to me. It's coming. So if you do that 12 times in a year, multiply that number times 12.
$2,241,000.
Yeah, you became a millionaire in 1 year on paper by doing 12 houses this way. It's the most incredible strategy on the planet.
It is incredible. I love it. This is an awesome concept.
Let's do a different set of formulas. Let's take 14,000 times 12. You got that?
Got it.
What's that number?
168,000.
So if you did this example 12 months in a row, you'd have collected 168,000 up front for the year. Could you live off that? Most of the people out there, most of them could.
I'd say so.
Yeah, it's not bad. And then let's take the 580 and multiply that by 12. The monthly cash flow on one house.
6960. So we'll call it $7,000.
Okay, and so you paid yourself $168,000 for the year to do one house a month, and at the end of the year, you're collecting $7,000 a month positive cash flow. Hell, you don't even have to get out of bed now if you don't want. If you want to go on vacation for 3 weeks, tell your boss to kiss your you know what, and go on vacation for 3 weeks.
That's awesome.
And if he doesn't like it, he can just keep his job.
I love it. I think this is incredible. I think the listeners are going to get a lot out of this, just breaking that down.
There's a dynamic to this business. The best business model on the world stretches even this. And listen to this strategy. You buy it, you do not fix it. Do you notice in this formula there was no rehab?
Oh, yeah. That was one of my questions I penned down while you were talking. So
you buy it, you do not fix it. You owner finance it for about double whatever you have in it, more or less. And then you watch the person that's making you payments every month, mortgage payments, go over budget, fixing up your collateral. With every dollar they put into that house, fixing it up, your position is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And guess, have you ever done a remodel there a few times, Joe?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Have you ever done one that came in on budget?
No, never.
Right, me either. And I've been doing this for 20 years, and they never come on budget. Right. So it just tickles me to death that I can sit back and, I say, it's going to cost $20,000 to remodel this house. Oh, no, I can do it for 10. I finally figured out why they say that, Joe. Because they're stealing the lumber from the other guys they work for, and then they're putting it up themselves, and they're not counting the labor. So they're not counting the materials or the labor, except for some stuff they have. So they always tell me I can do it for 10 or half of whatever I tell them. So I just quit. Arguing with them. And then I sit back and I watch them go over budget. You know what? About the time they hit about 12, 13,000, they still got about 3,000 or 4,000 to go. They can finish or they can walk. I don't care. Whatever you want to do. Now, look, I don't want to make a living off someone's failures, and I want them to go all the way. And I try to vet people to make sure that they're getting into something that they can handle, because I'm not in the business of taking people's houses. That's not what I signed on for this deal for. I'm here to help improve lives on all fronts. On my front, on the lender's front, on the house buyer's front, on the neighborhood that it's in's doing better. The neighbors next to those houses do better than they were before because you got an owner in there. I mean, the amount of wins when you offer financing to homeowners in these middle neighborhoods is incredible. A lot of times we have to make up all the back taxes when we do this, and that goes to pay the municipalities and the schools and the fire departments. I mean, and then they reassess this house instead of having it on the payroll for 30 or 40,000. By the time this house gets you finish facilitating that this house can get fixed up to its maximum potential. Then they put these houses on the tax rolls at 103 or 105,000. And now now the county's making way more money than they were before, right?
Sure.
The amount of wins in this business is astounding. I wrote at my blog 1000houses.com. Look at the 7-way win. I started out to write 7 ways you win, and I think I ended up writing 18 ways that the world wins when we do this. So this is why I like the owner finance strategy. I don't do repairs, and here's 2 very key points that you have to drill into your head on owner financing. Number 1, you don't need an appraisal to buy my house, or I don't need one to sell it to you. If you agree to buy the house at $102,000 with $12,000 down and $850 a month plus $150 for taxes and insurance at $950, what you're paying for rent. If you and I agree on those numbers and you bring the money, then you're in. I'm not government funded or protected or FDIC'd. They don't give me anything. No one's given me anything. I don't get low rates of money to borrow. The government doesn't guarantee anything for me. So I'm out there by myself, and when you and I agree, then we're in. The other thing that is important to remember is that we don't need an inspection to sell this house and get this loan, because I'm the one giving the loan. I'm happy with the collateral the way it is. Even though the house has a hole in the roof, Joe, the size of a dining room table, I'm not worried about that because you're a roofer and you're going to fix it, and you're not worried about it because you're a roofer and you're going to fix it. And so I can sell houses that normal realtors and brokers can't sell because they'll never get a loan for that house or that person.
Right. Let me ask you this. You mentioned the 5-year note with a private investor at simple interest at 8%. I'm sure the audience is thinking the same thing. What happens after 5 years if you've got an investor you borrowed from?
Well, you left out one piece of those terms.
I did?
Non-recourse.
Non-recourse, right.
Collateral only. When I borrow money, I put this right in my lender's face all the way. I don't candy coat it. I don't bury it in the fine print. I walk up to him and say, look, if you loan me the $46,000 for this house that I'm going to sell for $102,000 with $12,000 down, I'm going to give you a first lien, and I have 2 options. Option number 1, I owe you $320 a month for that $46,000, and if I don't pay it to you, you get to take my house. Option number 2, I can just give you the house if I don't want to pay the $320 anymore. And if you don't like either of those 2 choices, then don't do the deal. So you really shouldn't be looking at me. What is my credit? What's my reputation? Don't look at me. Go look at that house, because that's the worst case scenario. You're going to get that house. And I have those 2 options, and I have the right to exercise those 2 options and hold my chin up high any day I want to. Any day I want to. You understand the difference? What I'm saying now is I'm telling them, if you don't want that house instead of this $46,000, then don't do this deal.
Sure. Because
it's one of the possibilities. Now, I would like to go on record stating right here, right now, for you and your audience, I have never given a house back in 1,500 deals, nor have I been foreclosed on, or have I ever filed bankruptcy or defaulted or anything. This business is too lucrative to mess up, just for the record, but I have the right to do that.
Sure.
And the only way it would really ever happen is if someone dropped a nuclear bomb in downtown San Antonio. And that's not my fault. That's not my fault. No one can say, well, damn it, little Mitch Steven, you really screwed us over on that one. I said, no, I didn't screw you over. Whoever dropped that bomb down there screwed you. And you were making great money, 8%. That's part of the risk. You don't make 8% for no risk. I mean, who would have guessed? In my career, 20 years and 1,500 houses, nothing like that's ever happened. But I talk to people about worst case scenario.
Sure.
And what the rules are. So how do I get out of that 5 years interest only, 8% non-recourse loan? Number 1, if it was a business plan to collect $14,000 and then collect 60 payments of $580 and then it ended right there, would that not be a good plan? That's the worst it can get.
That's a good plan.
So what's 60 months times 580?
35,000, we'll call it.
Okay, so you make $14,000 up front, and then you collect $34,000 over the next 60 months, and then it's over. What's that? That's like $48,000?
$48,000.
Yeah, so you make $48,000 on that house in 5 years, and it's over. Is that a bad plan?
No, not at all. Love the plan.
Some people would call that a plan. I don't like the plan because then I'm dumping off the house to my I'm dumping off the house to my private lender, and he's a doctor. And the minute I give him one house back, no matter how good that house is, he's not lending me any more money because now I've confused him. He's now in a business that he never wanted to be in. What do you think that house that I sold it for $102,000? You think in 5 years what it will be worth?
Probably close to what you sold it for. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Yeah,
if they're all fixed up, the owners made all the repairs for you. We're 5 years down the road. There's probably some appreciation, especially down in San Antonio. You tell me.
The big thing is if they put in $10,000 or $15,000 in repairs on this house, it could easily be worth $130,000, $140,000. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. Sure.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I didn't sell this house. I didn't sell this house in mint condition. As a matter of fact, it had a lot of cat poop on the carpet and had a couple of holes in the walls, and all the windows were broken. You know? You think I could sell this note in 5 years seasoned?
Absolutely. That's what I want to touch on. I mean, that's that whole.
Hey, you think if I just couldn't quite figure a way to sell the note right now, I was running a little behind. You think if I called the doctor that loaned me the $46,000 that he'd extend the loan for another 12 months?
I'm guessing they want to keep the loan going.
Yeah, they don't want the money back. That's another difference. When you borrow money from the bank to do this, they're like, when are you going to pay me back? When are you going to pay me back? When are you going to pay me back? These guys are like, hey, can I get a payoff from you? They say, man, don't give me the money. What am I going to live off of? I'm going to lose my interest this month.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, all right, what about this? Could you find another person who wanted 8% money and just replace this guy who needs his money back or is really staunch about it's been 5 years, you need to do what you said? You think you could get another person now that the house is worth $130,000 to loan you $46,000 and you just replace the guy?
I bet you can. No problem.
You think you could talk to maybe 3 years in if you knew your lender was going to really want his money back in the 5 years? It's never happened. But in this scenario, we're saying, the 5 years coming up and it's a hard deadline. You think about on year 3 you could start talking to your buyers about refinancing? Oh
yeah, good point. I wasn't even thinking about that one.
Yeah. Do you think in 5 years of doing this that you could just stroke a check for $46,000, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you've got 10, 12, 25, whatever these houses, then it should be no problem.
You think you might be able to stroke a check for $25,000 and get your grandmother who only has $15,000 or $20,000 in her account and she could finance the rest?
Absolutely.
So you didn't have to write a whole $46,000 check. You could have just write a check for $20,000 or $25,000 because grandma don't have that much in her 401k,
Sure.
but she's got a little bit. And you want her to start making some money? Do you think you could go to a bank with 20 notes like this and say, I need to borrow the $1 million that I got from these people at 8% from you, and I need a 15-year amortized loan. Can you give me a 5% interest rate and an amortizing loan now finally so that my payment's going down while their payment's going down? And the answer is, Joe, yes. I went out with 20 of these notes. I was owed, for round numbers, right at about $2 million. I had borrowed right by my formula. I owed about $1 million. My formula that I told you, where 50% of the loan balance, it was right there over 20 notes. I was right there. $2 million I needed. $2 million I was owed. $1 million I owed to my people, to my lenders, and the bank loaned me the $2 million, and they all appraised because it'd been 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Or most of them had been down the road, or they'd been fixed up.
Right.
Matter of fact, they appraised for over $2 million. It was like 2.2, and all I'm looking for is $1 million. And they gave me the $1 million at 15 years, 4.7%, fully amortized, with a rate adjustment once every 5 years at prime plus 1. And here's the kicker: no covenants. And the maximum interest rate you could charge me under any condition was 9%. I had a 9% ceiling.
Okay.
So I wasn't going to get crushed if we went back into the Carter years and interest went to 18%. It's not going to crush me. I'm not really even going to notice. But it will cut into me a little bit.
Sure.
So here I go. Do you think you could go down to the community bank? This isn't Wells Fargo. This isn't Bank of America. This is Schertz Community Bank and Lone Star National Bank, and where you walk in, if you happen to walk into the boardroom, there's like 7 family members in there, and they're running this bank, and their grandfather started it 3 generations ago.
Sure.
That's the people that are doing these loans. Okay, but if you want to read about it succinctly, go to my blog at 1000houses.com. That's 1000houses.com, and read the blog post, Why I Borrow at the Terms I Do. And the other reason why I do this kind of loan is these people are elderly. They're between 65 and 85 years old, most of them in their mid to high 70s. Okay? I pay 7 widows now, because the men that I started dealing with 20 years ago have passed. The old-timers are very conscious of not spending their principal. They only want to spend that interest. If you send them a payment that's based on an amortization schedule, every month they're going to have to look at the amortization schedule, figure out how much of the payment is principal, and then they have to take that principal amount out and go take it and put it back in the bank, and then they're going to have it left over. This is too much for a 70-something-year-old person. They don't want to do that. It's
right.
Work to them, big work to them. So I just send them interest-only payments, and I tell them, hey, when you get these little bitty checks, all these little bitty checks, you can spend all those you want. When you get one of those really big ones, that's your principal.
Right.
Okay, you got to put that back in the bank, and I'll get it out again if you want me to.
Wow.
You know, when you do as many houses as I do, someone's paying me off all the time. So, and I got people saying, when are you going to get my money out? When are you going to get my money out? I had to start a hard money loan business. It's called loans2go.net, LOANS, the number 2go.net. I only loan money in San Antonio, so don't call me if you're not from the area. But on any given day, I have out $6 to $8 million on the street to my competitors, because if I didn't keep these people's money out, they'd lose it.
Right.
They'd loan it to their grandson or somebody who wants to start a snow cone factory in Alaska, and they can't figure out why they went broke. And so to make sure that their money was there for me when I needed it, I started loaning it out myself at 50 cents on the dollar. If you have a house that's worth $100,000 that you want to borrow some money on, I'll loan you up to about 55%.
Okay.
And you got to handle the rest. If there's a $20,000 rehab on top of that, you got to handle that with your credit cards or whatever. But so I started loaning it out, because if I get the houses back, I know what to do with them at 55 cents on the dollar.
Oh yeah.
I know exactly what to do with them.
I know what you're going to do too.
Unlike a bank, a bank can get all these houses back, and then they go broke on a property they hardly even loaned any money on because they don't know what to do. So
that's incredible.
That's the case study in a nutshell. Found a house I could buy for 46, borrowed 48. My payments around $380. Mm-hmm. I went out and so I put an extra $2,000 in my pocket when I bought it. By the way, last month I bought 18 houses. If I borrow $2,000 per house, what do I have in my advertising budget, Joe?
18 houses, 2,000,
Yeah.
36,000.
I got 36,000 in my account to send out postcards and to keep the game going.
That's
okay.
Awesome.
It's just 2,000. You want to hear about my FHA account?
I want to hear about everything. Yes.
You want guess what FHA stands for? It stands for Free House Account. So if I could have bought this house, if I got this house, this exact house in this case study, let's say I got lucky and I got it under contract for $30,000. It's happened. I still, by my formula, it says that I can borrow 48. So I still borrow the 48, and I take everything over the 30,000. I take the 18,000 that's above that, and I put it in the FHA account, the free house account. And I let it sit over there until it builds up to enough money that when I go to see a house, I just stroke a check for it.
Awesome.
That's called the free house account. And you reward yourself. I mean, you put that money into a separate savings account every time that you buy back. Every time you just buy under that 50% formula.
Sure.
And it happens from time, even if it's only $3,000 or $4,000, you still $3,000 or $4,000 will add up over the year. You do 12 houses and you do $3,000 you bought back on each house. There's $36,000. That's enough to buy some houses. You know what I mean? Or take a big chunk out of a house.
Absolutely. That's incredible.
So
I love that concept too, to pay yourself back and have that separate account to throw that extra money into, which you're going to benefit by buying another house at some point, free and clear. That's incredible.
Yeah, and I do that about 3 times a year. It happens to me that I can stroke a check because I'm doing a kind of volume. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I'm able to buy back sometimes really, really, really good. When you're in this business long enough, sometimes you just get lucky. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You get lucky and you buy a house that you would have paid $50 for. I paid $20 for it. So there's $30,000 in the free house account, like bam, in one stroke.
Awesome.
So that's how and that's also how I have people working for me. That formula is very important. How to establish the owner finance value is very important, because I got 5 people that all they do all day long is look for houses for me. And they're all in their own lane. One guy liked online bidding websites, and there's 8,000 realtors in town, so I divided them up about 2,000 a piece, because there's always new ones coming in. Mm-hmm. And I keep them from walking on each other. If one guy's working tax liens, then no one else works tax lien. That's a tax lien guy.
Right.
If you're working the probate, no one else work probate, because I don't want to be competing against myself, right?
Right.
And then I give each one of them 2,000 original realtors' email addresses, and they get to work those 2,000 realtors, and this guy gets to work his 2,000, and they're not bumping into each other.
Sure.
Well, here's the thing. If they go out and they sign this house up for $46,000, like the math told us was the home run price, if they sign it up for $46,000 or more, they get $500. Okay. If they sign it up for less than 46, they get half of what they saved me.
Okay.
So one guy went out the other day, and I told him the strike price was $50,000. The math said it. The great thing about the owner finance formula is it's not arbitrary. It's mathematical. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It can't be, I feel like this house we should get it for this much. No, it's mathematical based on the rents. So that's what makes it easy for both me and the acquisition person to swallow the number, because the number is mathematical. It's not goes by my hunches or anything. So the math said that he could buy this house the other day for $50,000. Well, he ended up getting it for $20,000.
Wow.
So he comes back to me and says, "Hey, I got good news. I got really good news." I said, "What?" He says, "That house I went out and the math, the formula said it was I could pay $50,000 for it." I said, "Yeah." He said, I bought it for $20,000. I got the contract in my hand right now." I said, "No kidding." He says, "Yeah." He goes, "But I think this is going to cause a problem." And I said, "What?" And he says, "You're probably not going to write me a check for half of that $30,000 you saved me." He says, "Right now, based on our agreement, you owe me $15,000. And he goes, "I don't think you're going to pay that." And I said, Why wouldn't I pay that? He says, "Well, that's a lot of money. You're going to pay me $15,000 for driving over there and writing this contract?" And I said, "Damn straight I am."
That's the deal.
That was the deal. And plus, you save, if I write you a check for $15,000 and I buy the house for $20,000, that means I'm getting that house for $35,000, and I told you I'd pay $50,000 for it.
Still a great deal.
So I save $15,000. Why in the world would I not pay you? And so I go and I borrow, potentially I could just borrow the $35,000, right?
Right.
Because I'd be $20,000 for the house and $15,000 for the guy. But I borrowed the whole $50,000. I borrowed $20,000 to buy the house, $15,000 to pay my acquisition manager, and the other $15,000 I put in my FHA account. and see, I'm not going to go broke by borrowing that extra money, because at the end of the day, I'm still at less than a 55% LTV on this house based on what I can own or finance it for. You don't go broke borrowing up to 55%. You go broke when you start borrowing 90 and 95% on houses.
Sure.
Okay?
Right.
55% is hardly over leveraging. From 50 to 55, because I took that extra money, is not over leveraging. It's just not. Mm-hmm. So, one of the number one rules when I started to formulate my business and how it was going to run and what it was going to accomplish, one of the primary goals was I will not over leverage. I will not, just because the banks will loan me 90% of what I've got out there, I'm not going to go do that.
Right.
Because that's how all those gurus end up filing bankruptcy. Is they over leverage the hell out of their properties, and then when the economy turns,
they're screwed.
But let's talk about the economy. What happens in the recession of 2008? I boom in recessions, and I'm going to tell you why, and it makes perfect sense. This business is just common sense. So I'm going to ask you some common sense questions, and without thinking about it too hard, just tell me the answers.
Got it.
Number one, what happens in a recession? And this one's a little out there, so I'll answer it for us. In the recessions, the banks stop loaning money. It happens in every single recession.
Sure.
They just stop loaning money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? What happens to rents when no one can buy a house?
They go up because the demand goes up.
Right. what happens to the prices of houses when no one can get a loan to buy a house?
They drop.
The prices. They
The
drop.
prices go down.
So the recession is the perfect storm for the owner finance strategy.
Sure.
The prices are dropping and the rents are going up, and my price is based on the rents. So in the recession of 2008, all the way for my houses, because they had owner financing, were appreciating in the center of a bad depression.
Sure.
They were appreciating because the rents were going up. Okay? I don't mean... this is where I say you have to go back. Someone will start to question me here. I say, hey, did you believe in that core belief? Remember that core belief that a person paying $1,000 rent would rather pay $1,000 to own? You told me you believe that.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
if you believe that, then in the recession, this house is going up in price. Here's the thing that's cool. If you do good in the good times and you boom in the recessions, when do you go broke, Joe?
I don't think that's possible.
Well, no, okay, there is. You'll go broke if you over-leverage,
Okay.
like we just talked about. You'll go broke if you don't conform to some federal or state laws.
Sure.
And you'll go broke if you don't have an integrity, because when you don't have integrity, you tend to get sued. And getting sued is very expensive, and you can go broke. Those are, if you can mitigate those three things in this business, you'll go on forever. Don't over-leverage. Conform to whatever laws are out there that you need to. And don't go around screwing people. If there's a problem with a house, tell them what the heck the problem is, even though they can't see it,
Sure.
or they're not smart enough to figure it out.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Don't be getting in lawsuits. Disclose. Tell people the truth about everything.
Right.
Your lenders, your buyers, everybody.
I like it.
You know why it works? Joe, that way? Is I've taken the bank out of the formula. Who am I buying the houses? What money am I using to buy the house? Private people.
Yep.
I'm using private people, so I don't need the banks to buy. Now, most people got one side of the formula handled or not. And then when I'm selling the house, who's financing the house? Me. I already got the financing. I'm wrapping. You know, they make a payment on $92,000, and I make a payment on $48,000, and I keep the spread. I have the financing already arranged on the other end. I've taken the bank out of my life, out of the equation on both ends, the buying end and the selling end. So because of that, I don't like to say this because it's a really, really huge statement, but so I like to say it like this. I won't say that it's a recession-proof business, but I will say if there ever was a recession-proof business, this might be one of them.
Got it. Right. That's awesome.
This is the reasons why I love this strategy. I wrote 3 books on it. My Life in 1,000 Houses is a series. My Life in 1,000 Houses, Failing Forward to Financial Freedom, is autobiographical. It's entertaining. It looks long. The book flies.
Right.
Read the reviews. I think I'm getting on close to 200 5-star reviews, and I think I have maybe 7 reviews that are less than that. I will tell you this, like I'm telling you always to be honest, okay?
Sure.
The first 10 reviews are me and my family, okay?
Okay.
After that, they're real. So review number 1 through 10, for the very beginning, way back in 2008. If you see the first 10, those are me and my family and friends. So just don't read those.
Okay.
But everything after that's is a real life testimonial or review. And that book's entertaining. The biggest question from that book that people sent me over and over and over again, without a doubt, the biggest question of the day after that book came out was, how in the world do you find so many houses?
Right.
So I wrote My Life in 1,000 Houses, 200 plus ways to find bargain properties. Obviously, this can't be as entertaining as a story, the first autobiographical story of how a dummy figured out how to make some money, namely me. But people wanted to know how to, so I wrote this how-to book. I tried to make it as entertaining as I could with backup stories and backstories of how I discovered that these things would work. But, you know, it's going to be a little drier. And then the third book, the one that came out in 2016, was My Life in 1,000 Houses, The Art of Owner Financing. And if you want a whole bunch of case studies, like the one we just went over with pictures of the houses and conversations about how the deals went down and how they were made and problems I had and problems I didn't have, you go to that book, My Life in 1,000 Houses, The Art of Owner Financing, and it'll give you all these numbers. Also, you can go to my blog, 1000houses.com, 1000houses.com, and look at the tabs at the top. You can find Mitch's Books there, but you can also find free stuff. You can get a webinar that goes through all kinds of case studies. It's about an hour and 40 minutes, I think. I mean, I go way into detail about my mindset and show you real deals that happened to me and kind of get you settled in to this notion of becoming the owner financier, because it's a simple concept, but it takes people a little while to get their arms around it, Joe, because they're just not used to thinking in real estate in these terms. And they'll keep going, okay, well, I talked to a renter yesterday. I said, no, you didn't talk to a renter. You talked to a buyer.
Right.
Talked to a buyer. Okay, well, look, I got my rent check today. I said, no, it wasn't a rent check. It was a payment, right? Or did you rent this house? Did I misunderstand you? No, I'm sorry. It was a payment. Okay. So I have to keep kind of pulling people back sometimes.
Sure.
And they'll say, the value of the house is $80,000. I said, where'd you get the value of the house? I said, well, I went to the MLS and got the comps. I said, no, that's not the value I'm looking for. I'm looking for the owner finance value, partner. What's the rents? Let's start doing some math here. I have to keep pulling them back. And they get it after a couple of deals, you know what I mean? But
sure,
it's hard to people to change their ways.
I understand. So we touched on that then. That's normally one of my final questions, but I think you just hit it, and we'll probably recap on it again at the end of the podcast here. But so you've got 3 books out, My Life in 1,000 Houses series. So I heard the Failing Forward to Financial Freedom. Is that what the first one is? The autobiography?
That's the first one that was kind of autobiographical about how I morphed.
That's the story of Mitch.
It's how I morphed from this idea that I was going to be a landlord all the way, and everything that happened to me of how I got to the decision that I didn't want to be a landlord, that owner financing was way better, in my opinion, and that I had been lied to by a bunch of people telling me that renting houses was what to do, and they weren't telling me the truth because they weren't telling me the downsides. They were just giving me the rosy side, but they weren't telling me any of the downsides of the business. Sure. And so my book, the version Failing Forward to Financial Freedom, is kind of like, this is what happens after the Get Rich seminar. This is what really happens.
Right.
After the hoorah and the pep talk and everybody leaving the deal, $5,000 lighter and higher than a kite on Go Juice, this is what happens when you start doing the business. This is what really happens. And I fall down a lot in that book, as you can imagine, Failing Forward to Financial Freedom. Right. I fall down so many times in this book, my nose should be flat.
That's awesome. So that's the first book in the series. Then you've got 200 Ways to Find Bargain Properties as the second book in the series, right? And
200 plus ways.
200 plus ways.
There's actually 250 ways in that book because I always over-deliver, Joe.
I love it. And then the final book in the series is The Art of Owner Financing. So for one of the listeners to find the book, is it best just to go to your website, 1000houses.com, or Amazon, or what's your preferred method? Doesn't matter.
If you want it, if you either way is fine with me, but if you want an autographed copy and you want a better price, that my prices just include shipping, I have better prices, and you'll get an autographed copy, and I'll send it out usually the day that the order hits.
Cool.
But if you want to get it from Amazon, that's fine. Or I do have the first 2 books are on audible.com if you'd rather listen. I do have Kindle downloads sometimes.
Sure.
So anyway, now my books, I just want to warn, my books are more expensive than normal books. So don't be freaked out about it.
Okay.
But, like that book, the last one, The Art of Owner Financing, I sell it on Amazon. It sells for $54. And people are going, $54. How many pages is this book? Well, it's 100 pages. I mean, if that book can't make you back $50, you need to stay out of this business. You know what I mean? If that book can't make your $50 back on any given chapter, then just leave the book alone. Don't go get it. But the reason why it's that high is I couldn't just give all this away,
Right.
And one, I wanted to gate certain people from getting into the business because bad apples can hurt every business,
Absolutely.
So I didn't want to make it to where just everybody could go out there and get in here, because some of this stuff could be used, could hurt some people. Like if you go out, I teach you how to borrow money from people, and then you go out there and you don't pay them back. That's not cool.
No, not at all. I have a couple more questions. I'm going to change gears a little bit here, and then we'll wrap it up. I had a question from one of the listeners that came up a few weeks back, and I think about this answer a lot, and I'd like to hear your opinion. How does somebody just getting into real estate find a good mentor? What would be your recommendation? What can they do to find a mentor?
I think you got to talk to people that have hired them. I think you have to vet these guys really hard to make sure that you're going to get what you want to get. But here's the biggest thing that I hear people are disappointed in, and I don't blame them, frankly. They go out and they a really decent amount of money, if not a high amount of money, to go get involved in some strategies and theories from this guy that they're watching on stage or that they're listening to on the tapes or reading in the books. And then when they pay all the money, that guy subs it out to some student who did 20 deals last year, and that's supposed to be your teacher.
Right.
That's horse dookie.
Right.
I mean, so if you're looking for personal hands-on, then make sure that that's in the agreement that you're getting. If you want to be able to ride around someone's truck, make sure the person you're paying says they're going to let you in their truck and let them drive you around.
Sure.
So that's one of the things. I'm a little bit different. I don't let anyone come drive around my truck because I don't even train people in my town. I only train people out of town.
Okay.
Because I can't compete against if I train someone, I fully expect them to buy 50 to 100 houses a year, and I don't need that guy in my backyard.
Right.
So I'll train somewhere else. The other thing is some of the ponds that I fish in are pretty shallow, and everyone can't go fish there.
Right.
I specialize on getting out on the fringe, and that you need to be lonely out there. There needs to be nobody else out there because and so find a mentor that speaks to you, that has a demeanor that you and run them online, man. Check them out. There's places online you can go to find out the bad stuff about people or the complaints about people. Go there and look what the complaints are. How many? Now, look, if someone's doing a lot of volume, they're always going to run into a nut or two, and there'll be something there. But look at the averages. I mean, if the guy's got 200 great reviews and he's got 7 bad ones, you got to figure maybe it was the 7 people. Maybe it wasn't him.
Right. Exactly. No, I completely agree. Okay, great. Thank you for that. I think that's a good answer for the listeners to have. What book is currently on your nightstand or your desk that you're reading right now?
I'm trying to think of that name. What was it? The 4-Hour Work Week?
Yeah, 4-Hour Work Week by Timothy Ferriss. Yes, great book. I highly recommend the listeners check that one out too.
I'm still in the stage of if I'm really buying all that right now, but it's a good theory. But I'm still
right.
It might be 8 or 10 or 12 hours. I'm not sure.
It sounds like a great concept.
But here's the thing: when you really love what you're doing and you're really good at it, and you have people around you to help you, you might be working 24 hours a day, but it doesn't seem like it.
No,
you know what I mean?
Because you enjoy it. You love what you do. All right, that's pretty much all the questions I got for you today, Mitch. I do want to thank you for taking the time with me this morning to do this call and this podcast. I know that we really dove into, I think I'm going to name this the anatomy of an owner finance transaction, because it was incredible to see that case study and kind of walk through your owner financed value formulas and talk about how the listeners themselves could kind of jump into something like this, which is incredible. That said, again, thank you very much for your time. How can the listeners get a hold of you again?
You can email me at mitch@1000houses.com. Again, 1000houses.com. Mitch@1000houses.com. You can go to my website, 1000houses.com. Get all the free stuff you want there. Just click on the free stuff tab. And I even publish my phone numbers in the front of my books. So my phone number is right in front of my book. It's like I'm not hiding anywhere. I'm right. Anyone can find me.
Right.
I'm not too hard to find.
So the cool thing is when I bought your first book, the Failing Forward to Financial Freedom, and I actually read it and I gave it to somebody else to read because I was pretty inspired by it, and like I said, I took some action after reading that book in the owner finance field.
You actually called me from the book, didn't you?
Yeah. I contacted you because I had a question and you helped me out, which is awesome. So how often do you get that? But
I don't know. How often does someone call you back? Right.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. I like talking to people. As a matter of fact, if you can get the first 100 pages of my book free under free stuff, and there's a decent chance you probably will get a phone call from me if you download the 100 pages free, just to thank you for downloading the 100 pages and to make you the offer that if you actually read the book in its completion, that you can call me and discuss the book if you'd like to, and you have my phone number now.
Right.
So, I like meeting people. I like listening to what other people are doing around the country. Absolutely. So you learn a lot. You can learn a lot.
Absolutely. No, I love that. absolutely correct. But I'm going to order that 3-book series myself now, because since I gave that first book away to another investor friend of mine, I haven't gotten it back, and it's been a while.
If you're going to go buy all 3, I have a bundle there for you'll save a ton of money. There's a bundle for all 3 books there under Mitch's Books. So I would definitely go to the site for that, because no one's offering bundles out there. I'm the only one that does that.
I'm going to bundle it up. No problem. I want a part 2 to this, because I think we could have dove into a lot more stuff. I mean, we kind of scratched the surface of how this business works, but I'm guessing we'll be able to come back and fill another hour of great information someday.
Yeah, well, I think the next thing you talk about is where am I finding that private money? Because the private money is the key to almost every strategy. Even if you're doing subject twos, everyone goes, well, you don't need private money if you're doing subject twos. I'm going, come on, man. How many houses do you find subject to that you got to put $15,000 in to make up the back taxes and get the house at least where you can rent it out? You know what I mean?
Sure.
So every strategy needs a private money, and having access to dynamite, good private money is the difference between making $200,000 or $300,000 a year and being a multi-millionaire. Because just think about it. If you could just say, yep, I want that one. Yep, and I want that one. Yeah, and I want that one too. And I want those 2 over there. And I want that one over there. And you just picked up the phone and the money got there within 24 hours. I mean, imagine what a difference it'd make in your career.
Absolutely. No, that'd be a great topic.
Last week they called me. My daughter calls me and says, I'm a little bit worried about something. I said, what's that? She goes, we got 18 houses to close in the next 15 days. I said, what's the problem? She says, it's $973,000. I said, okay, I'll be right down there. So I went down there and I made sure that she was standing in front of me when I made 3 phone calls and got that money in less than 10 minutes.
Wow.
I had to show him who Daddy was again.
That's awesome. Yeah, let's schedule a part 2, the where to find private money. So I think that'd be a great topic to cover, especially with somebody with your type of experience and the caliber of business you developed. I mean, that's incredible. So,
well, it's been my pleasure to be here. Anything I can do to help, and I do offer my mentoring services, but I can only take about 12 people at a time because I'm the guy that answers the phone. So,
sure.
If you're thinking that way, then give me a heads up, and if I can't take you right now, you might have to wait 30 days or 45 days, but it'll be worth the wait, because when I tell you you're in, I answer the phone.
That's awesome.
And I've changed a lot of people's lives. My favorite thing is people that want to quit their job, and we back into that scenario, and I've helped a lot of people quit their jobs, and they're doing so much more in life than they ever thought because they don't have a ceiling anymore.
That's great. No, absolutely. And they just find you on the same thing, the website, the best way to find out about the mentoring program you offer?
Mitch at 1000houses.com or support at 1000houses.com. I mean, I'm not too hard to find. If people want to find me, if they can't find me, they dang sure don't need to be in the house business. If you can't find me, don't worry about it.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, thank you again, and we'll talk soon.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Welcome to the Investor Empowerment Series radio show, empowering your real estate investing with techniques, opportunities, and information, minus the BS and sales pitches. Now, please welcome the host of the Investor Empowerment Series, Joe Mueller, from the Tough as Nails Investment Syndicate. Joe Mueller.